I've lost along the way, I'll never find again. It's easy to believe that you get to ride for free until it's time to pay. On a day just like today, I drove to the ocean, looked out at the sea. I started to wonder if I could ever be free. Free as the ocean.
Hello there, and welcome to the Second Life Book Club. Today is a casual get together, a casual hangout that we call What Are You Reading? And people have asked me what the music is for the pre roll that we use for YouTube. That's actually a song I collaborated with a singer by the name of Kel Swan back in '97. I think recorded this demo, and I really like it. It really fits sort of the mood to set it up. But people in Second Life, they haven't heard it. You have to be on YouTube to hear it. Um, we're here on Second Life Book Club Island number 1. We're here with Sigh. The manager is here, of course. Clyde, Shyla, and Water. Water is probably reading David Foster Wallace's What is Water? Or no, This is Water. Um, I prepared a few things. I'm going to give a little intro of where I'm at with my reading, and then I'll open the floor. And I also have a little short story that I would like to read. I think that people will totally enjoy that. So, to start us off with, I want to start with a little bit of a heavy subject, but also with something that I think will help us keep our humanity intact while the madness is ongoing. There is a genocide going on in Gaza at this moment in time. And if you disagree with that assessment, you can. This is my opinion. That's how I see it. There is a specific definition. But the definition of genocide, frankly, is not that important. What is important is that people are being killed, innocent civilians are being killed, women, children, and of course also men. Now, do I know a lot about Gaza? No. But, and I want to bring this to folks' attention, I'm not longer on Twitter or posting on Twitter, but I'm using it as sort of a little curated reading list, following a bunch of different people, and I'm following this person called Una, and she recommended books by Palestinian authors. So if you feel like me, if you feel that there is injustice being done by a nation state against marginalized people in a settler colonial situation, if you feel like me that art is the way to get to know a people, to get to know a person or a people or a culture, and if you want to support that culture, outside of if you're able to give to food aid or whatever, I think the best way is to support a culture by purchasing books that come from this culture. And this person that I'm following on Twitter here recommended a bunch of Palestinian authors. These are her favorite books. Squire by Zara Alfage, The Sea Cloak by Nairuz Kamut, My First and Only Olive by Saha Khalife, Light in Gaza, this is the one I actually have as an ebook, Olive Harvest in Palestine by Wafa Shawi, and Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear by Musab Abu Toa. Now, I don't have the links to these books. Best thing is if you're watching this on YouTube, take a screenshot and find where you can buy them. And if you're in Second Life, do the same. Just take a screenshot or ask me for the texture. I'll give you the texture. The book club manager actually has that texture. Or you can also just look up this person Una here on Twitter. So again, no matter what you think, I mean, I've also read a few nonfiction books about the issue. Ilan Pape is a Israeli historian who wrote a book called 10 Myths About Israel. That's straightforward historical stuff. I think that stuff is important too. Facts and all that dry stuff is very important. There's also a book about the legality by a Palestinian lawyer. Now the name escapes me. But as we discuss often here on the book club, what is even more important, or at least equally important, is to engage with art from a particular culture, from any culture that you want to know more about, right? So, I mean, that's obviously my conviction. If somebody held a gun to my head and said, choose a choose a poetry collection from country XYZ or culture XYZ. I don't want to talk about nation states. Let's say a culture. Uh, you either pick a poetry collection or you pick a history book. I will always pick the poetry collection. I don't think I have to ask that question to Shyla here. Um, so if anybody wants to chime in on this or any other topic, now is the time, and you also have complete permission to interrupt me. This is a one-time only deal. It's not even I'm not even charging for it, Clyde, this time. I might charge if it's a business opportunity, I might charge. So if Clyde wants to talk
I
about
am laughing.
Clyde, do you want to share with us what you're reading or thoughts
Yeah.
on my take on culture or whatever? Take it where you will.
Well, I'll share. I'll share what I am reading. I'm reading a bit of fiction, which I haven't got with me, a fantasy book. But I'm also because I tend to read either a fiction and a non-fiction sort of at the same time,
Yeah,
depending on my
that's
mood.
a great plan. Yeah.
So I am reading, and in fact I'm rereading because I read it when it first came out, a book called Proust Was a Neuroscientist
Ooh.
by Jonah Lehrer. When was it written? Hang on, let me see. I can't remember. It's some time ago, but I'm rereading it because it made such an impression on me.
Shyla, do
It
us a
was,
big favor. If you can retrieve that link, the manager is busy with something else. That will be awesome.
it's 2007, so it's a long time ago. But basically, what his premise is that artists, through the ages, some of the great ones, I'll mention their names, hit upon various neurological things before the scientists did, right?
Hmm.
That the way we think and our consciousness. So the first chapter is, surprise, surprise, Walt Whitman.
Hmm.
The second is George Eliot. He then goes to Auguste Escoffier about his cooking.
Uh-huh.
And then Marcel Proust, Paul Cézanne, Igor Stravinsky, Gertrude Stein, and Virginia Woolf. That all these artists were aware of something within our neurology, our people, what makes us people, before the scientists said, oh, look at this, this is what we are. But it's wonderfully written. It's full of facts and historical information and just makes you stop and think.
You know what, Clyde? This is so amazing because I'm gonna look into this book, and I'll ask you afterwards, or maybe Shyla can retrieve the link or whatever, or later you put the link in the chat. Doesn't matter. I'll find it. Yeah, Shyla is asking for the title again, but what you're talking about, this is to me extremely appealing because the way you describe it, this is something that I would intuitively, or maybe because I am a rocket scientist, this is completely just my complete conviction without any proof that writers of fiction, writers of stories have those insights because they talk about human beings in scenarios that put them push them to the brink, and so they create laboratories by way of their stories, if it's a short story or an epic,
Yes.
that then the writers have to somehow in those laboratories observe those non-existent non-existent but only in their heads rats and stuff like that. And Clyde, every book club I talk about now, or I ask the guest, what do you say to someone who says, we don't need fiction because all we need is facts and good research and things like that. And it's
Yeah. I mean, because look, I'm a particular fan of SF, although I will call it oh God, what do I call it? Oh gosh, I've forgotten the word. Not science fiction, but it'll come back to me. But so much of the stories, going back to the 50s and Asimov and all that, there was stuff they were writing about that, now is real. If you take Star Trek and their bloody communicator, we're all walking around with that sort of thing now. And yeah.
Yeah, but I would not confine this to any particular genre or the prediction that especially sci-fi or hard sci-fi has made in terms of sort of technological advances. I would go much
No.
further than that because
Yeah.
again, the relationship of human beings, and I'm a big sci-fi fan, but this transcends any type of genre, because as
Yeah.
soon as you create composites of people. And again, I'm learning this as the host of this book club show and a big reader. I have no formal, degree in literature or whatever, but
No.
it should be obvious that when you create these composites, what our guests often say when we ask them, like, where do these characters come from? Did you know them? Are these people that you know? And usually the guest says no. These are kind of composite creatures, and you put them in scenarios, and you have them confront with challenges, and they can be
Yeah.
absurdist or whatever they are. You will find truth some truth
Yeah.
will come out even if you're not seeking it, I guess.
I've remembered the phrase because I don't call it science fiction, sci-fi, whatever. It's speculative fiction,
That's right. That's
right?
actually a
SF
term that's
is
much more, yeah, right.
Yes. It's speculating. What could be, or have you thought about it this way round? And that's the sort of reading, that gets my attention. Speculative. What you were talking about earlier with the how to live safely, and that's exactly the thing. That's looking at it's speculating. How
Yeah.
would you survive?
Well, but okay, we'll talk about it later because I'll tease the appearance of Charles Yu, who is a giant in contemporary writing. But he also transcended, although the title science fiction appears in his novel. It totally transcends the genre as well. You'll see. You know what I'm gonna do, because Clyde has opened the floor, and now Sigh. Let's see what Sigh is writing here. Let me read this. I think I'm gonna read the short story that I have prepared, because the short story is by an American author, and that is not science fiction, and it's a very short story, and it's a great example of Bernard Malamud is a highly regarded Jewish American writer along the lines of Saul Bellow, Philip Roth, so that generation. And this short story is so genius that even Clyde, who is a speculative fiction ideologue, Clyde, she hates. I'm just making this stuff up. Clyde, by saying you like speculative fiction, you're saying that you hate everything else, right? No, of course not.
No. I also like historical fiction.
Hmm.
So one of my favourite authors is Neil Stevenson, and his Baroque trilogy is my absolute go-to series. I mean, just wonderful.
The next
But
person, okay, now that you said it, because I tell people always about Infinite Jest, and people tell me about the Baroque cycle. And when I tell people about Infinite Jest, then I sometimes get the answer, yeah, I tried it, but no. And and I have tried the Baroque cycle, but it was probably not the right time. I know it's an important work, and I will get to it. Thank you for mentioning it. I'll put it on my stack.
I feel really happy now. Thank you, Drax, because if you can't get on with that and I can't, that's a lovely ground for us to sit in. Thank you.
Well, but then you have to read Infinite Jest, which is 1,000 pages plus 300 pages footnote. But let's not waste time on my broken record. Sigh says fiction opens up new possibilities as it requires imagination. Like any form of invention, research only deals with what is there already and doesn't expand the realm of the possible. Sigh, yes and no. I mean, I said this, I don't disagree with you, but I would say when you look at social sciences, there is amazing research being done. There is, I read that stuff. I find it very, very interesting. I'm just making a broad statement here, but I think even the best analysis in the academic sense, based on however solid research and even by solid research may include um, getting close to a culture or whatever it is, but a fictional story, as Werner Herzog calls it, ecstatic reality. Werner Herzog says that he talks about his own documentaries. He's not a fan of cinema verite, or just the camera, the fly on the wall camera, and things like that. And that's similar to me, as is solid journalism, solid research, and good journalism also has protagonists that are in a predicament. I read a lot of political journalism, the Nation magazine or the Intercept or whatever, and that stuff is touching me. But a story of characters that are concocted by a good writer and put in a scenario, a world, or a series of worlds that may or may not resemble our own, that uses symbolism, metaphor, analogy, all these tools, it's just more powerful. And Shyla mentions poetry, and poetry is another. Frankly, as I'm getting older, I feel like poetry is even more important or able to bring us closer to our own human condition, the human predicament, whatever it is. There's a movie by Alejandro Jodorowsky called Endless Poetry from 10 years ago. Jodorowsky is 94 years old. He directed this at 84. Anyway, I'm getting off tangents. Shyla?
No, no. I just because I know I'm supposed to be reading Infinite Jest, but um,
You're not reading it?
but
Shyla! Shame on you.
well, I picked up The Flame
The
by
Flame.
Leonard Cohen. Yeah, it's his last book. It was finished a month before he died,
Hmm.
and it combines poems that maybe we've never seen. Well, poems we haven't seen, entries from his notebooks, lyrics, and drawings, all we've never seen. The drawings are amazing how they go with the poetry and the lyrics. The
Hmm.
drawings are just throughout the book on all the pages, pretty much. There's a little hand or pencil or line drawn um, picture by Leonard Cohen to go with the piece. And I think when we talk about poets, especially modern day poets, um, I and it's true of many old poets as well. But I think modern day poets are really straying from some of the standard topics, and
Yeah.
definitely making statements about things, whether things are okay or not okay, and the need for change and moving forward. We see a lot of this, I think, in the slam form of poetry, really bringing up the issues of today,
But I'm
but
not an expert, Shiloh.
tacking
But
on
didn't
to it
Ginsburg?
change.
But Ginsburg, these people did that too, no?
He's a modern.
Ah, yeah,
He's
right.
a modern poet.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, way back poet.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um,
Like Whitman, that
yeah,
was mentioned earlier.
hundreds, no, hundreds of years.
Ah,
I
okay.
think Whitman is also considered as part of the Enlightenment era. He would be a more modern poet, and he does address issues. Whitman's Song of Self is all about acceptance and seeing the truth in people, which is the best in people, and brotherhood and sisterhood and all of that stuff. It's about potential, and yeah, I want to read that book now, Clyde. But yeah, so I'm really enjoying The Flame. There's a lot of good pieces in here. I don't know if you want to hear one because I know you want to read something. Um, but
Yeah, we could. You know what? Let me get an image up here from Leonard Cohen, The Flame, which is interesting because Leonard Cohen, uh, this is interesting to me as a musician. I mean, I was tangentially aware that he also released books of poetry, but this is in a sense blowing my mind uh, that you mention him and you say, well, he's a poet because for me he's a musician, which is stupid because we contain multitudes if we're real artists, right?
yes, and I think the breadth of it, like I cannot draw. I can write, but I don't draw. And to see a book with the drawings, the poetry, the thoughts, like just out of his notebook, his thoughts and stuff, it really broadens my perspective of his work and his thoughts and what he was about. A lot of the poems are kind of relationship based and love poems.
Let's pick one,
Um,
Shyla. Why not? Let's pick one. And let me also just say that, oh, this is published by Canongate Books. You know what? I have a relationship with Canongate because we had a few authors on. Maybe I can contact someone and have the editors come in, and maybe talk about this, and then we can have some readings too. Well,
Can while you're
yeah,
sorting
Clyde?
yourselves out, can I read a quick paragraph about Whitman from the Lyra
Yeah.
book, which
Ag-
Charlotte
Again, tell me real quick. So the author's name is.
Jonah Lyra,
Mm-hmm.
Lehrer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's been writing about Whitman, and he goes, and so, as his country was slowly breaking apart, Whitman invented a new poetics, a form of inexplicable strangeness, a self-conscious language maker. Whitman had no precursor, no other poet in the history of the English language prepared readers for Whitman's eccentric cadences. Sheathed, hooded, sharp-toothed touch, his invented verbs, unloosing, preluding, unreeling, his love of long anatomical lists, and his honest refusal to be anything but himself, syllables be damned. Even his bad poetry is bad in a completely original way, for Whitman only ever imitated himself. So I think that
Wow,
sums.
that's awesome. This is very much something that I probably have to somehow pick up, although I'm on a very tight budget. I have to see if this is available on eBay or something. The, because again, also Proust is, by the way, on my anxiety list. Last time I talked about bookshelf anxiety because every time I look at my bookshelf, I'm obsessed with these, what some people refer to as canon, like Tolstoy, War and Peace, and I love these big books. I'm not afraid of them, but it's like which should I pick out, and then the mortality comes into place. Like I will never I will never be able to read all of them. Whatever Don Quixote, In Search of Lost Time. I'm talking about War and Peace. So, oh God. Anyway, Proust was a neuroscientist by Jonah Lehrer. And Shyla, what would you like to read?
I'll read this piece. This is from page 66. Um, and it's called I Think I'll Blame. It's a poem by Leonard Cohen.
What is it called?
I Think I'll Blame.
I'll blame.
Yeah, I'll put it in here.
I found it. I wonder if you, as a one quick question up front, do you
Yes.
do you read or do you need, I guess, is poetry for you something that needs music? Obviously no.
No, no, but I sometimes can see the music. But I was reading somewhere, and a musician was there, and this is not true of all musicians, but they found it interesting and hard to put something to music that maybe doesn't rhyme.
Hmm.
And then I know other artists that do that very well. So I think it's like forms, with poets. Some are more musical.
Yeah.
We're doing some Villanelle workshops recently, and those are based on old church, what do you call them? But hymns of
Hymns.
sorts. And so they've got a rhythm to them, and you should be able to sing
Mm.
them. So, in that form. So here's I Think I'll Blame by Leonard Cohen. I think I'll blame my death on you, but I don't know you well enough. If I did, we'd be married now. For the full enjoyment, and I promise you, there is such a thing. It is not enough to read between the lines. That is child's play, and we are not that fond of children. One day, you will pick up this book as if for the first time and say to yourself, I don't know how the guy pulled it off. Line after line rises from my predicament. The nerve, you'll say. The fucking nerve. And strengthened by your indifference to the matter, not to mention the entire question of the past, you will recall how good you were to me, how good I was to you. And standing at some commanding place, like a window or a cliff, you will know the full enjoyment. And that's, I think, I'll blame.
Ah,
Oh, bravo. Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
The book club manager has. Can somebody give the book club manager $9 Linden? The book club manager wanted to upload the end of the poem, and then he unfortunately uploaded twice this beginning of the poem. The book club manager. Thank you, Clyde. Thank you, Tsai. So here is the end of the poem that the book club manager quickly pulled from the internet, and because it features a drawing that I think is in the book here.
Yes, yes, that drawing is opposite, on the opposite page of the poem.
That is amazing. That is something that I
Yes, see
always
what I mean?
envied. Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I cannot
Brilliant.
draw
Yeah.
for shit. It's so ridiculous. And when I
No,
see
neither
that,
can I.
it's amazing. So much emotion and history in this expression. Unbelievable. You know, Shyla, I recently saw an interview with what's her name now? The artist who sang this song. All I want to do is have some fun. What's her name? Sheryl Crow, for God's sakes. And she gave an interview about her new album, and she talked about AI, very critical of AI, or what we call AI. And she talked about the lyrics um, of the song "All I Want to Do," and she picked up a book at the time. It was '92, I think, when that came out. Uh, and she picked up a poetry book of contemporary poetry, and then she wrote the song around one of the poems, except for the chorus. And she wanted to rewrite it, and it never came out right. So she used verbatim the poem, and then got in touch with the poet and gave him 50% of the song rights. And the the poet, she was absolutely unknown at the time, and the poet says, "Yeah, whatever, it doesn't hurt. I don't know you. Maybe this goes nowhere." And this was one of the biggest hits of the early '90s. So, so I think I'm going to. Oops, where's my camera? Does anybody want to add something to Shyla's wonderful reading? Because I'm going to advance to the lectern here. Sigh is typing. So I'm going to wait until Sigh has typed. And meantime, I'm putting up. Sigh says, I think it shows that poesy serves to, let me formulate, expand the possibilities of written language.
And before you started, you talked about the poetry, Drax, and
Mhm.
it just dawned on me with Leonard Cohen. He was the poet before the singer, before the music.
See, I didn't even know that. What kind of musician am I, Shyla? I'm not really a musician. I'm just a Frank Zappa fanatic. That,
No, you're a musician. Oh gosh, you're a good one.
well, we can't know everything, can we? But I feel embarrassed. Sometimes I don't. I remember I was in a discussion with a guy who made the music for a documentary, and he was talking about the dueling banjos from God. What's that movie? Okay. I'll stop myself before we get into a completely different subject matter. Anyway, I feel I should need I should know more about Leonard Cohen, but I don't because I'm a bad musician who reads too much. Musicians should practice more, not read. Speaking of reading, so I'm going to read you guys a short story by Bernard Malamud. This is just a clip from Wikipedia. Bernard Malamud, 1914 to 1986, was an American novelist, short story writer, along with Saul Bellow, Joseph Heller, Norman Mailer, Philip Roth. He was one of the best-known American Jewish authors of the 20th century. His baseball novel, The Natural, was adapted in a movie with Robert Redford. So he comes from Russian Jewish immigrants, grew up in Brooklyn, and his stuff is amazing. So I had, you know, someone I was not familiar with. I read an article in The Nation. I go on eBay, and there is this short story collection, Rembrandt's Hat, for €1. Okay, the German translation by Annemarie Böll, Heinrich Böll's wife. So these are stories from the late 60s and early 70s. This is the German edition here that I have. In English, of course, Rembrandt's Hat. And I was amazed at the absolute mastery of very, very short stories that immediately create a world in the reader's head characters that are just jumping off the page, and complex relationships, just conveyed with such sparse language is absolutely amazing. And because we're speaking about sci-fi, Clyde, there is the last story in that book is called The Speaking Horse, or that sorry, The Talking Horse, and it's about a horse that thinks he's a human being, but maybe he's stuffed in the horse by a deaf mute guy who abuses him in the circus. And that has a very, very sci-fi. I mean, it's also absurdist and satirical, but it also has a sci-fi vibe to it. The story that I'm going to read is called The Letter, and I don't know exactly if this is from 68, 71, or 72. Here we go. Bernard Malamud, The Letter. At the gate stands Teddy holding his letter. On Sunday afternoons, Newman sat with his father on a white bench in the open ward. The son had brought one pineapple tart and one strawberry, but the old man wouldn't eat them. Sometime during the 2.5 hours he spent in the ward with his father, Newman said, "Do you want me to come back next Sunday, or do you want to have next Sunday off?" The old man said nothing. Nothing meant yes, or it meant no. If you pressed him to say which, he wept. "All right, then I'll see you next Sunday. But if you want a week off sometime, let me know. I could stand a Sunday off myself." His father said nothing. Then his mouth moved and he said, "Your mother didn't like to leave any dead chickens in the bathtub. When is she coming to see me here?" "Pa, she's been dead before you got sick and tried to take your life. Try to keep that in your memory." "Don't ask me to believe that one," his father said. And at that point, Newman got up to go to the station where he took the Long Island Railroad train to New York City. He said, "Get better, Pa," when he left, and his father answered, "Don't tell me that. I am better." On Sundays, after he left his father in Ward 12 of Building B and walked across the hospital grounds that spring and dry summer, at the arched iron-barred gate between brick posts under a towering oak that shadowed the raw red brick wall, he met Teddy, standing there with his letter in his hand. Newman could have got out through the main entrance to Building B of the hospital complex, but this way to the railroad station was shorter. The gate was open to visitors on Sundays only. Teddy was a stout, soft man in loose gray institutional clothes and canvas slippers. He was 50 or more, and maybe so was his letter. He held it as he always held it, as though he had held it always, a thick, squarish, finger-soiled blue envelope with unsealed flap. Inside were 4 thick sheets of cream paper with nothing written on them. After he had looked at the paper the first time, Newman had handed the envelope back to Teddy, and the green uniformed guard had let him out of the gate. Sometimes there were other patients standing by the gate who wanted to walk out with Newman, but the guard said they couldn't. "What about mailing my letter?" Teddy said on Sundays. He handed Newman the finger-soiled envelope. It was easier to take than hand back than to refuse to take it. The mailbox hung on a short cement pole just outside the iron gate on the other side of the road, a few feet from the oak tree. Teddy sometimes threw a right jab in its direction as though pointing at the mailbox through the gate. Once it had been painted red and was now painted blue. There was also a mailbox in the doctor's office in each ward, Newman had reminded him, but Teddy said he didn't want the doctor reading his letter. "You bring it to the office, and so they read it." "Well, that's his job," Newman answered. "Not on my head," said Teddy. "Why don't you mail it?" "There's nothing in it." "Well, that's what you say." His heavy head was set on a short, sunburnt neck, the coarse, grizzled hair cropped an inch from the skull. One of his eyes was a fleshy gray, the other was wall-eyed. He stared beyond human when he talked to him, sometimes through his right shoulder, and Newman noticed he never so much as glanced at the blue envelope when it was momentarily out of his hand. Once in a while he pointed a short finger at something, but said nothing. When he said nothing, he rose a little on the balls of his toes. The guard did not interfere when Teddy handed Newman the letter every Sunday. Newman gave it back. "It's your mistake," said Teddy. After a while he said, I got walking privileges. I'm almost sane. I fought in Guadalcanal. Newman said he knew that. Where did you fight? Nowhere yet, said Newman. Why don't you mail my letter out? It's for your own good the doctor reads it. That's a hot one. Teddy stared through Newman's shoulder. The letter isn't addressed to anybody and there's no stamp on it, said Newman. Put one on then. They won't let me buy 1 3 or 3 1s. It's 8 cents now. I'll put one on if you address the envelope. Not me, said Teddy. Newman no longer asked why. It's not that kind of a letter. Newman asked what kind was it. Blue, with white paper inside of it. Saying what? Shame on you, said Teddy. Newman left on the 4 o'clock train. The ride home was not so bad as the ride there, though Sundays were murderers. Teddy holds his letter. No luck? No luck, said Newman. It's off your noodle. He handed the envelope to Newman anyway, and after a while Newman gave it back. Teddy stared at his shoulder. Ralph holds the finger-soiled blue envelope. Oh, sorry, Ralph came in. This is a little messed up. Oh boy, I just noticed. No. Okay, so Ralph appears. Oh no, did I mess this up? Guys, I'm so sorry. You know what? I got this from Esquire magazine. And I think I forgot a page. Okay, Vamp, guys. Vamp, let me get this. Are you having fun with this story? So we're at the point.
Yes.
We're at the point. So Newman goes home and he says Sundays were murderous. Okay? And everybody can kind of picture the scene here. It's obviously some sort of institution. Right?
Right. It's a cliffhanger right now.
It is a cliffhanger. And his father is a feisty one.
Yes. They won't mail the letter.
But his father is
your
only
own
very
good.
briefly there in the very beginning. Let's see here. Continued on. Oh, it's continued on page 144, it says.
Magazines.
Magazines back in the day. There is something totally missing here. There is something missing where actually Ralph appears. God, this bugs me. Let me see if I find another one because the problem is I don't have it in English. I actually got it also on eBay. But let's go on the Internet Archive. Anybody else want to say something? What are they reading? Or about reading in general, or about short stories? I think I'm not a short story kind
I think.
normally.
Yeah, I think I am. I love the short story form. I love writing it, and I love reading it. I think that's what I'm learning about myself. Like through reading more,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really. I just read over at Fantasy Fair. I just read Ursula K. Le Guin.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was a great story about it was called I think Leaving the Omelas, and Omelas is a place, a utopic place, except for one thing. They have I can't give it away, but they have this one thing that is very problematic and necessary to the utopia.
Hmm.
And so it just talks about how everyone kind of accepts this, and it relates, I think, today. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when I point out things and issues and stuff, uh, people are kind of like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" You
Oh, the
know, or that's
depoliticization
how it's
was,
always been.
well, yeah, that's the
Yeah, yeah.
depoliticization
Yeah,
is has been a project for a long time, and it's really disingenuous when sometimes when boomers complain about Generation X being apolitical. I mean, this was their project also. Um, now I found the now I found actually the continuation of the story. So let me read that, if I may. Trying to make it bigger. So Newman is going home on the train, right? He's not mailing Teddy's letter. Now he's coming back. Wait, the ride home was not as bad as the ride there. Those Sundays were murderous. Teddy holds his letter. No luck? No luck, said Newman. It's off your noodle. He handed the envelope to Newman anyway, and after a while, Newman gave it back again. Terry stared at his shoulder. Ralph holds the finger soiled blue envelope. One Sunday, a tall, lean, grim old man, clean shaven, faded eyed, wearing a worn, thin World War I overseas cap on his yellow white hat, stood at the gate with Teddy. He looked 80. The guard in the green uniform told him to step back. He was blocking the gate. Step back, Ralph. You're in the way of the gate. Why don't you stick it in the box on your way out? Ralph asked in an old man's voice, handing the letter to Newman. Newman wouldn't take it. Who are you? Teddy and Ralph said nothing. It's his father, the guard at the gate said. Who's? Teddy. My God, said Newman. Are they both in here? That's right, said the guard. Was he just admitted, or has he been here all this time? He just got his walking privileges returned again. They were revoked about a year ago. I got them back after 5 years, Ralph said. It's astonishing, Newman said. Neither of you resembles the other. Well, who do you resemble? Asked Ralph. Newman said he couldn't say. What war were you in? Ralph asked. None so far. That settles your pickle, said Ralph. Why don't you mail my letter? Teddy stood by sullenly. He rose on his toes and threw a short right and left at the mailbox. I thought it was Teddy's letter. He told me to mail it for him. Teddy fought at Iwo Jima. We fought 2 wars. You fought the second war and I fought the first. First, which war did you fight? None yet. Make up your mind. None. We're stuck here because we fought the wars. I fought in the Marne and in the Argonne forest. I had both lungs gassed with mustard gas. The wind changed and the Huns were gassed. That's not all we were. That's not all that were. I'm sorry you were gassed. Tough turd, said Teddy. Mail it anyway for the poor kid, said Rolf. His tall body trembled. He was an angular man with close-set bluish eyes and craggy features that looked as though they had been hacked out of a tree. I told Teddy I would mail the letter if he wrote something on the paper, Newman said. What do you want it to say? Anything he likes. Isn't there somebody he wants to communicate with? If he doesn't feel like writing it, he could dictate it to me and I'll write it out. Tough turd, said Teddy. He wants to communicate with me. That's not a bad idea, Newman suggested. Why doesn't he write a few words to you? Or you could write a few words to him. A Bronx cheer to you. It's my letter, Teddy said. I don't care who writes it, Newman said. If you want me to, I could write a message wishing him luck. I could say I hope he gets out of here soon. The Bronx cheered to that. Not in my letter, Teddy said. Not in mine either, said Rolf grimly. Why don't you mail it like it is? I'll bet you're afraid to. No, not that I know of. I'll bet you are. No, I'm not. I have my bets going. There's nothing to mail. There's nothing in the letter. What makes you think so? Asked Rolf. There's a whole letter in there. Plenty of news. I better be going, Newman said. Oh, I missed my train. The guard opened the gate to let him out. Then he shut the gate. Teddy turned away and stared over the oak tree into the summer sun with his gray eye and his wall-eyed one. Rolf trembled at the gate. Who do you come here to see on Sundays? He called to Newman. My father. So what war was he in? The wars of life. Has he got his walking privileges? No. What I mean, he's crazy? That's right, said Newman, walking away. So are you, said Rolf. Why don't you come back in here and stay around with the rest of us? And that's it. That's the story. Bernard Malamud, the letter. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't get any better than that. Tough to do Rolf's voice. Well, and it's also, I mean, there's so much subtext here. He visits his father, obviously, in just there's one sentence or two sentences that explain the relationship with his father in the very beginning. He brings the cake. The father doesn't touch it. He asks the father, do you want me to come back next Sunday? The father doesn't say anything to that. And then he asks again, if you want to take a Sunday off, right? I mean, what does that mean? It means probably the son would like to take a Sunday off, but it's phrased in a way that makes it look like, it's the father's burden. So the son wants to pretend that he gives the father a week off. So lots of really cool stuff in that small collection. Yeah, if people want to chime in with anything, I want to keep these meetings short and sweet. So I plan on wrapping this at the top of the hour. Welcome also Valentina, if Valentina wants to say anything. Haven't read many short stories in a while, but I do love them, says Sigh. Sigh, pick up Bernard Malamud. Again, my new thing is eBay. It's amazing on eBay. You learn about an author. You go on eBay and you find stuff for €1. I mean, I found stuff that is just absolutely amazing. Maybe I'll talk about my finds that are all like €1, and then there's like €2 shipping, so it's €3 per book. It's quite unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to go. My dinner is ready. Thank you. I look forward to more good reads, and I look forward to getting the books you've already mentioned.
Thank you, Clyde. Thank you for coming and thank you for chiming in. Really inspiring. This is exactly what I wanted to kind of achieve with this, that we inspire each other in these small circles. Sigh is typing here, I'm deep into Infinite Jest. That's wonderful, Sigh. You know that we have a secret Infinite Jest support system going on this other thing called Slack, and you can chime in there or ask questions. It's the 24. It's the channel is called Infinite Jest Support. Yeah, but we sometimes we have good discussions there, and Dex is chiming in, and people are catching up and whatnot. But the next casual hangout is actually going to be Infinite Jest centric as well. So um, yeah, the Slack channel is great if people are kind of stuck or whatever. It's just I'm here to help, um, just like a sponsor in AA. That's my role on Slack. So I want to end with this here real quick. Going back to Palestine one more time. This is from Haymarket Books. These are free ebooks. Um, here about the sometimes maligned BDS movement, boycott, divestment, sanctions movement. I mean, this is painted in the media as an anti-Semitic movement, which it is not. There can be a discussion about how effective it is, but these are free ebooks. I'm going to put the chat in the link in the local chat and also on YouTube. So you can get these free books. I highly recommend it. Palestine, a Socialist Introduction is fantastic. I read that one, Light in Gaza. I'm on it. This is from Haymarket Books. Haymarket Books is a fantastic publisher. So get those. Dex Euromat is in Krakow. I love Krakow. I love Krakow. I was in Krakow 2017 with my mother's cousin for her 80th birthday. It was amazing. So here is this. Let me look at my list because I wanted to mention one more thing. Oh yeah, we'll do this next time. But who is coming to the book club? We have two guests. One is Rick Harsh. Rick Harsh is running a small press called Corona Samizdat. He is an amazing guy, and he will talk about independent book publishing, and he will also talk about why he does not read Infinite Jest. And it's not that he thinks it's bad. He just, I'm not quoting him directly. We had a meeting with him, Shaila, and he said something to the effect that he grew up in that milieu of like, middle class overachievers, but also secretly super dysfunctional and addicts. And he doesn't want to. He doesn't. He fled that scene, and he doesn't want to be reminded that he's actually from that background or something like that. So Rick Harsh is coming on the 15th. I'm really excited about it because, yeah, exactly. It's like it's too triggering for him. But Rick's Corona Samizdat, maybe Shala, you can put the link in the local chat of the Corona Samizdat website. It's a fantastic, fantastic operation. He has started it the beginning of Corona. He is based in Slovenia. He's an American expat there, and his books are amazing. He has also these pocket books that he sells for 10 euros. Just amazing stuff. Um, so I hope Shyla can put that in the chat real quick. If not, I'll put it in there later. This is on the 15th, and then a special. Please note, take a note. May 18th is a Saturday. Charles Yu is back. Charles Yu, who was on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and still says he loved the book club here in Second Life much, much more than um, The Daily Show, whatever that means. I mean, we do 90 minutes in depth, and Daily Show is good, but the guests is like 5 minutes, right? So that's the difference. This is Rick Harsh's website, coronasamistat.com. Check it out. And Charles Yu, we're going to talk about his television work as well. He is a writer for, or was a writer for Westworld, most prominently. And his book, Interior Chinatown, which is absolutely amazing, is made into a series on Hulu. I, of course, am ideologically opposed to making series and movies out of great books. Interior Chinatown is amazing. And but his book How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe is even better. I think it's his debut novel about a father and son who build a time machine and work through their conflicts, through their very, very difficult relationship. So it's a father-son story. It's not a mother otter story. So water, you may not be interested in that. But anyway, that's a special Saturday, May 18th. That's it. Any last words? Water says fish. Thank you, everybody. Oh, let me put the Corona Samizdat link in the chat here. So we got a lot of stuff. And thank you, Shala, for reading and reminding me of the importance of Leonard Cohen. Sigh, is there a donation box? Shyla, res the donation. Res the donation box. This is all yours.
Okay. I know. Okay, and I forgot. I thought of it, and then I even forgot.
Very bad, Shyla. Bad, Shyla. Bad.
I know.
By the way, we're here
Oh
on
my
the venue today is here, this gigantic space station. It's on Island 1. And this venue here, oh wait, this door doesn't, oh, does this door open? Oh, this is empty. This is a space station on the moon. And this room here was made for Alia Whitley, which is a British author, sci-fi, also really good. So if people go in world, they can explore. She was here for her book Skyward In. These are different covers here of the Skyward In book, which is a fantastic book. These are all not made by AI. These were all made by artists who live and breathe. So this is the venue that we're in today. I should have mentioned that. Because I don't even remember all the venues that we have on our 4 islands. Right? Is that crazy? Here is the main room for the African Futurism get-together we had here with Vole, Tortlo, Tendai, Dilman. Vole is coming back as well. So anyways, have a wonderful rest of the week. And thank you, everyone. And I'll bring us out. And Valentina, again, also thank you. Next time, let us know what you're reading, if you like. And goodbye and good night.
We're all thrown into it, one way or the other. We all try to steer it as straight as we can. Sometimes we collide with each other. Who is to blame? And who's gonna fix the boat? Life, oh life, there's nothing to fear from your life. Let me know if I can be of any help. Life, you and I, let's try a fresh start today. What do you say? Let's close the door on the past. So we swim, and it is in so many ways just a little trick to keep our heads above water. But now I'm not afraid anymore. Life, oh life, there's nothing